Gisborne.
Yep.
Ah, sweet pea.
Good to see you.
Mwah. Thank you.
Hey, guys. So, I think legacy is not what you leave behind, but it's who you are while you're here. And I have studied changing the world for quite a while, even though I don't seem that old. And what I've noticed is the people that have changed the world the most, in my opinion, what they did to change the world was not about what they left behind, it was about who they are while they were here. Jesus is a great example. We had some awesome, did you guys hear the gospel going on? Yeah. I was like, my man, I like that. And so Jesus is a great example. I'm not a super religious guy. I wouldn't even consider myself a Christian, but Jesus, whether he's even a real person or not, just a great metaphor. Because his legacy was who he was while he was here. His message, what was his message? Shout it out. Love. Was it new? Yes or no? I'd say no. We'd heard the message before. Right? So this is maybe important for you guys to hear because it's not about what's new in what you're doing. How he exemplified his message was at a level that no one had ever seen before. Mother Teresa, what was her message? Shout it out. Love. Had people heard that message before? Yeah. Do you see a trend? She's legendary. She goes down in the history books as someone who changed the world. Her message wasn't new. We'd heard it before. But what was different? She exemplified it to a level that no one had ever seen before. Right? Here's sick and dying people. The majority of the world didn't want anything to do with them. And she said, let me hug you. Let me feed you. Let me show you love. That's pretty cool. And she changed the world by doing that. So I said, okay, legacy is not about what you leave behind. It's about who you are while you're here. Then that means that your number one goal, your number one objective while you're here is to become the absolute best version of yourself so that whatever it is that you want to bring to the world, whatever your message is, you can bring that. And I want you to write this down. This is going to be one of the first nuggets, if you will. The reason that you must develop yourself I'm guessing that's Kanai, is that right, on the list? Okay. The reason that that's so important is because the better version of yourself that you are, the more you have to bring to other people. Jesus, what most people don't know is that Jesus took off for 15 years, the missing years of Jesus. And what's kind of assumed is that he just went off somewhere to develop himself to a very high level because before he left, he was just a carpenter guy, And then he decided to go off and spend some time developing himself. And then he came back and changed the world. So improving yourself is really important. And what I want you to write down is the highest probability of the deepest transformation. That is the lens that I do everything from, right? We're all pretty plugged in this room. We know that there's a lot of different ways to quote unquote get your message out there. And sometimes it can be confusing to know which way do I go? And the marketers out there are so convincing. So from now on, my challenge to you, my encouragement to you is use this as a lens. What is the highest probability of the deepest transformation? When you look at a path, you look at a fork in the road, and you can say, I can go this way or I could go this way. All you have to ask yourself is, which one is going to give me the highest probability of the deepest impact? So I have a program, I have a company called Legacy. Surprise. And I've been in the coaching industry now for about 13 years. Yes, I started when I was 12. And And I know you guys know this because this was a smart room. I know you guys have seen the industry move towards leverage and automation, yes or no? Does it give you kind of a funky feeling, yes or no? Yes. Yeah, there's a reason for that. Here's why. I've kind of figured some things out. I believe there's two types of people in the world, people who have a gift and people who are a gift. One is not better than the other, but they're different, and they're fundamentally different in how they perpetuate changing the world. Here's an example. Whoever invented this had a gift. This is a gift. And the way that this changes the world is by leverage and automation. The more people that have this in their hand, the better. Now, we could go on in a different conversation about whether that's actually good or not. Different conversation. But can we agree that for the most part, the more people that have this, the better? Yes or no? Cool. Leverage and automation. Cool for this. Mother Teresa, in her time, how many people did she actually hug and bring her compassion to in person? How many people? Does anybody know? Millions, though? No. Did she try to leverage and automate herself? No. Thank God she didn't make the Mother Teresa ebook, or online program, right? Thank God Jesus wasn't just join my online program and you'll experience the compassion. You see, for people who are a gift, it's critical for the world to experience you at the most intimate level. If this was an online summit, how many of you would have showed up? Be honest, yes or no? Yeah, that's what I thought. Why, though? Because I'm guessing that you guys know her to some degree and wanted to have, or knew this community, and wanted to have an in-person intimate experience. Raise your hand if that's true. Okay, look around the room. You see the difference? So I said to myself, okay, I want to create something that's going to allow me to bring the absolute best of myself to the people that I work with, because I want to create the highest probability of the deepest impact. I don't want to do online programs. I don't want to do products. I don't want to do ebooks. I don't like any of that stuff. I just want to work super intimately with really awesome people. That's it, period. And so I said, well, cool, how do I do that? And I came up with this idea for a program called Legacy. And I came up against a challenge because I realized that the people that I wanted to work with in this program were big thinkers. And I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But I wanted to work with people that were wanted to just change the world. And what I realized was I was not that type of person yet. I was not playing at the level that was going to allow me to truly serve them. So I needed to up-level. And there was a huge fundamental difference between the past and where I needed to go. And the difference was, historically, I got paid for my knowledge and my experience. And sometimes we get tricked into thinking that that's our expertise, right? Hey, I was in this industry for so long and I know so much about it, that's really my value. But if you're someone who is the gift, how many of you would consider yourself the gift? Okay, you wouldn't be in this room if that wasn't the case. So how many of you consider, whatever your true gift is, how many of you would agree that it's just who you are? It's just innate. You didn't learn it, you didn't go to school for it, it's just who you are. Look around the room. Keep the hands up, look around the room. Keep the hands up, look around the room. So that tells us something. It tells us something that's critical, which is your knowledge and your experience are not your value. And your knowledge and your experience are not what people need. We live in the frickin' information age. People don't need more information. If anything, they need less. Write this down. Transformation is a subtractive process, not an additive one. So I said, okay, historically I got paid for my knowledge and my experience, and that was finite, which means it was limited, which means I could only get paid and I could only create impact up to a certain level. It was capped. And of course, me being someone who loves to be unlimited, didn't like how that felt. How many of you don't like feeling limited? Raise your hand. You see, what's fun about this, guys, if any of you, like, I can make presumptive statements like that because I just know all of you. I just know you're here for that reason, so I can say things like that. So I said, okay, this is limited. This is not tapping into my real genius. And my real genius is my creativity and my imagination. My creativity and my imagination. And I had been scared to get paid for that up till a couple years ago. I figured it was safer to bank on the knowledge and the experience. And but you guys, you get to a point where like enough is enough, right? It's like you just step up. And so I said, okay, I'm going to get paid for my knowledge and my experience, which means I am only going to get paid moving forward to answer questions in which the answers to those questions do not yet exist. Rather than answering questions that like I knew the answers to. And it could have been like, I could have just created a robot of myself that like took in the question, analyzed the question, oh yeah, I've heard that one before, here's the answer, spit it out, right? Like, what about being presented with questions in which the answers do not yet exist? That forces me to go to a level of imagination and creativity. So I created the legacy program, yes, to serve the rest of the world, but honestly, as a growth opportunity for myself. I wanted to create an environment that caused me to step up to a level that I had never done previously. That's kind of cool, huh? So that's all cool, but then the rubber meets the road. And then you actually got to do something about it. So I said, okay, cool. I like this idea. I want to charge for it in alignment with that boldness. It felt bold to me to do something I had never done before. So I wanted to get paid in a way that was bold. So I said, well, I want to get paid 6 figures for this program. And not just 100K, I want 150K. And there was no rationale for it. There was no like, well, here, like, I didn't even have the program all figured out. It was just a number. It was just a gut feeling. It was like, that's just what I want. And how many of you have ever gone for something purely because it was just what you wanted? Raise your hand. How did that feel, good or bad? Yeah, right? So there's a little secret in there. It's like, ooh, if it feels good, don't think about it. Don't try to figure it out. Don't wait for like a sign. Just like your sign is that it feels good. Something to think about, or not. So I said, okay, I'm going to charge 150K for it, and I'm only going to rely on my creativity and my imagination. So I had one client that was finishing some work with me, and it just so happened that he was finishing the work at the end of the year. And I had just created this legacy program, and I said, okay. I presented it to him, and he said, wow, that sounds like a lot. But this guy's really smart. He said, you know, I invested more than that in my house, and I believe I'm a better asset than my house is. And I was like, dude, I couldn't even sell it that well. I said, well done. Well done. And he understood the terms. He understood the deal. I said, look, man, I'm only going to play with you if you can bring it. And he said, trust me, I've got some stuff that I've been wanting to bring to the world. I just haven't been in an environment that really lets me unleash. I said, cool, what do you got? What's your question? What's your impossible question? And we're in my house in Santa Barbara, sitting on the couch, and I have this big whiteboard, and he's looking up at the whiteboard, and he goes, you know, he's from New Zealand. I want to raise the GDP of New Zealand by raising the GDC, which is the gross domestic confidence. So I want to raise the GDP of a nation by raising the confidence of a nation. So if you don't know about New Zealand, they suffer from this little thing called tall poppy syndrome. Who's heard of that before? Yeah. For those of you who don't know what it is In New Zealand and Australia specifically, there's this thing called tall poppy syndrome, which is like, who are you to have a big idea? Just like, yeah, the tallest poppy gets chopped. So not only does that come from people around them, like, oh, you have a world-changing technology? Yeah, like, who are you to, like, just don't. And then that gets imprinted onto their mind, so they talk themselves out of it too. So they're like, oh, I've just created this amazing world-changing technology. Yeah, I probably shouldn't do anything with it. Like, they screw themselves over. And if they maybe have a little bit of hope, don't worry, because everyone around them fucks them over too. So it's really a plague because New Zealand per capita has some of the most genius innovators in the world. The predictive search that essentially is like the Google algorithm was created in New Zealand. The cell phone, funny enough, was invented in New Zealand. And a list of other world-changing technologies that I could go on about, but New Zealand doesn't get the credit. Typically what happens is they create this technology, and then tall poppy sets in, and they sit on it, and someone else goes, that looks good, we'll take it and run with it. So we said, okay, how do we change the GDP of New Zealand by raising the GDC? And we said, well, what if we showed the people of New Zealand that something was possible that they believed was impossible? What would happen? And there's a story of a guy named Roger Bannister who broke the 4-minute mile. How many of you have heard that story before? So what happened when he broke the 4-minute mile? What happened after that? Other people did it. Now that's a metaphor. That's also a little nugget that's important, because all you have to do is do something that no one else has done before, and it unconsciously gives the people around you permission to do the same. And because I've studied the heck out of that phenomenon. And it's interesting because after he broke the 4-minute mile, there were other athletes that were like, wait a minute, I'm better than that guy. Start the clock. Boom! And they did it. No more extra training. They didn't need extra conditioning. It was purely mental. So that's powerful. In my world, it's like, wow, what if we could apply that to doing something that's never been done before? So we needed a test subject. And luckily, the guy, his name's Daniel, that was my client, or that is my client, knew this guy named Ollie. And he created what's called a rapid public transportation system. It runs above the traffic line on a rail system. It's zero emission. It can make an entire city carbon neutral within like 5 to 8 years. It's unbelievable. And he invented it 10 years ago, and no one's ever heard of it. Because of what? Right? But we worked with this guy, and we said, listen, man, you're better than this. And we just built him up. So much so that the Prime Minister of India, who just invested about $3 trillion with a T dollars over the next, I think, like 11 years in developing smart cities, looked at this guy, Ollie, and his technology, and said, you need to come to India. And they flew him to India, and he spoke in front of the Prime Minister of Transportation. And because he had power, because he had a voice, he stood in front of the Transportation Board of India, and he pitched his idea. And at the end, they said, we have to have it. And not only do we have to have it, we are changing the entire transportation policy in India to this technology. Pretty cool. So now technology, transportation-wise, in India is forever changed because of that. Husbands are going to get back to their families faster. How many of you know the traffic crisis in India right now? It's like, you think Southern California is crazy? They have 1.3 billion people that are all trying to get somewhere. So this technology is going to revolutionize that country in a number of different ways. So talk about legacy, right? That's pretty cool. But I believe there's something better. And what I believe is better is that Ollie went back to New Zealand, and now he's like a Roger Bannister. All the other genius innovators are like, start the clock, right? And this happened actually last year. So 12 months later, a small handful of other genius innovators have done deals that are slightly less than, equal to, or slightly better than what he's done. That bid, by the way, in India was worth $220 million. Not bad. So the whole point of this story is that when you choose to do something that's beyond where you currently are and you do it, you ignite real change in the world. Transportation in India has forever changed because a couple of years ago, I just decided that I was going to do this program. And literally, the way that India got shifted was like 3 degrees of separation. It was like me, the guy that I worked with, and the guy that he worked with. That's it. So part of the limiting belief a lot of the times is like, man, we want to change the world. We feel like that's a following, that's this movement. It's so big, it's got to involve so many people. I've changed the world through like 3 degrees of separation. So I don't say that to brag, I say that to show you what's possible for yourself. And if you're into this like intimate style, if you're into not wanting to try to leverage and automate stuff, you don't have to. And you can still change the world. And in fact, if you consider yourself to be the gift, then if you are going to apply the lens of the highest probability of the deepest transformation, then in fact, intimacy is the best way to do it. Yeah, the highest probability of the deepest transformation. And that's so critical, you guys, because it's like, we're inundated with options of how to do things. Like we just feel that we want to make a difference, and then it's like, but how do I do it? Like maybe this thing or maybe that thing. It's like, it's frustrating, it's overwhelming. Nope. The great equalizer is the highest probability of the deepest impact. Every single word in that phrase is critical because they're all part of the bigger picture. Highest probability, not like decent probability, highest probability. Deepest impact, not just impact, because what's impact? If I sold 2 million copies of my book, would you guys say that that's a big impact, yes or no? Yeah. I'd say no, because statistically we know. How many of you have ever bought a self-help book and didn't read it? And still haven't read it? Keep your hand up. Look around the room. Yeah. So is that big impact, yes or no? Be honest. No. Right? So there's a little bit of like bamboozlement going on of like what big impact really is. And again, this only comes from because I care so much that I want to understand it. I want to tear it apart, and I'm willing to be uncomfortable and strip away all the stuff I thought was impact and look at it and be like, fuck, I thought that I was really making a difference, and I guess that there's a different way to do it. And in my opinion, a better way to do it. So that's where highest probability of deepest impact came from, because I have a book, and I've sold it to a bunch of people. And then at the end of the day, I looked at all the nitty-gritty, like, did I really make an impact? Where is it? And it was kind of like, fleeting at best. So I share this with you because I want to inspire you that, number one, you don't have to do things how the majority of people tell you to do things. And number two, that when you do things that are beyond where you are, the impossible happens. And when you do the impossible, not only is that powerful for you, because you get to grow. Think about it. Like, what a leader really is not someone who leads other people, but creates other leaders. And so if that's true, which it is, then by you growing yourself, by you choosing to put a bold line in the sand and say, that's the impossible, or that's something I've never done before, and whoever I'm going to have to be to operate at that level, I'm choosing to do that. How do you think how much better do you think you serve as a function of that choice? Better or worse? Better. So that's the whole point, is like when you choose to do something that's beyond where you are, you grow. And as a function of you grow and choosing to do things that are beyond you, the people that are involved with you grow. And if they're up to world-changing stuff and they're growing, then what they're capable of expands. And the India story is a perfect example of that. I would have never, like when I was creating the legacy program, I would have never imagined that changing transportation policy in India would come as a function of that. I just thought like, maybe some cool stuff will come out of it. Like, no, literally it's changing the world. So the highest probability of the deepest impact. And it's been so liberating for me because it's like, oh, here's all this stuff that you can focus on. But when I put that lens of highest probability of deepest impact, it's like, oh, that doesn't work anymore, and that doesn't work anymore, and that doesn't work anymore. And all I'm left with is just like, for me personally, what it is all I'm left with is like, I just show up. Like literally the legacy people come to my house once a quarter, and they meet with me in person, and I can say they get one phone call a week throughout the year, but I can tell you that the majority of the value of that entire program comes from that one-on-one time. It just does. And so I'd encourage you to think about what's impossible for me. What's impossible for me? Who would I have to be to do it? And how do I want to do it? I created the legacy program. I said, okay, it's going to be $150K, just because that's what I want. It's going to be a 3 to 5 year commitment. Like, who does that? Who starts a relationship like, hey, so this is going to be great. It's 3 to 5 years. Sign on the dotted line. Like, a lot of people don't do that. But I don't want to do what a lot of people do. I want to do what I want to do. And it's not even about like, so I can be different and be like, oh, I do stuff that other people don't do. It's purely because that's just what I wanted. Like, I was just totally honest about what I wanted. And we all know the benefit of when you just go with what you want, what comes from it. So I said, I want it to be 3 to 5 years. I want it to be high level. And I only want to be asked questions in which I don't know the answers. And I want to sit with these people. I want these people to come to my house once a quarter. Why, Shannon? Is that really necessary? I don't know. It's just what I want. How about that? Thank you. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got for you guys. Is I don't.
We're not done with you. We can't let you go. You're too juicy. All right. So here's my question. Can we have you for a little bit?
Yeah, of course.
Can you stay for a little while?
Yeah.
Who in here is interested in picking Shannon's brain a little bit? Oh yeah. So great, right? So I think he has a client in Santa Barbara, so he came down this morning to love on us and serve us and open up our minds, and then he's got to get back to Santa Barbara. So that's why we kind of like moved things around, because it's such a gift. You are the gift.
Thank you.
And we are so gifted to have you. We really are so blessed to have you with us.
Thank you.
Very humbled. And we literally have had, like a 20-minute conversation.
Yeah.
Right? And as you guys know, that's kind of how it works, right? It doesn't have to take forever.
I said this last time. I should probably say it again, which is, I'm not a speaker. Like, maybe you could tell that a little bit.
You're a pacer.
I'm a pacer. I like to pace.
I'm a pacer, too.
I like to be in movement.
Yeah.
But the truth is, I'm not a speaker. I don't do like public speaking. I'm not like, the people don't have me come talk a lot. I don't do a lot of talking, to be honest. I'm behind the scenes most of the time. But because of who I am, I get invited to things like this. Mm-hmm. And I only say that to inspire you, because if speaking on stage is something that you want to do, then focusing on speaking on stage is great, but focusing on who you want to become is better. That'll get you on stage. And I'm proof, because I'm not that good.
Yes, it's good. And I think I can, let me think about, can I share this? I can share this about Lynn Twist and Oprah right now. I feel like I can share that because it's going to happen publicly pretty soon. So a good friend of ours, who's an amazing, do you know Lynn Twist? You've heard of her. She started she's one of the founders of the Hunger Project in the 1970s, okay? Cool. And she spoke at our Limitless Women event in April, and she's getting ready to be on Oprah. She just was in your neighborhood shooting Super Soul Sunday. Mm. And one of the things that she said to me, because she's so juicy, delicious, and humble, is she said, Sarah Better, who's one of our business partners, said, Sarah did this.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, no, 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 my love. You did it.
Yeah.
Because when she started the Hunger Project, for those of you that weren't at Limitless, in the 1970s, she started with Buckminster Fuller and Werner Erhard. You know who those two guys are, right?
Yeah.
And so when they started in the 1970s, 40,000 people died every day of hunger. There was about 4 billion people on the planet, so proportionally you can get the number. And most of them were under the age of 5. Now today, there's 7.3 billion people, and then those numbers are down to about 16,000 people dying every day. Now, proportionally, that's great, right? Having a deep impact, but it's still not where we want to be,
Yeah.
right? It's still solvable. So when she said, oh, Sarah got me on Oprah, I was like, oh, no, 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 no. My love, you got you on Oprah.
Yeah.
The version, she's in her 70s now, but the version of you and the impact you've created in the world
Yeah.
is Oprah worthy.
That's right.
Oprah doesn't need to, she's not out there looking for who can
That's
she showcase
not
anymore,
even
right?
close.
Like it's the version of you
That's right.
that she wants to bring to us for Super Soul Sunday.
That's right.
So we can actually see what we're capable of.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So let's scooch over this way a little bit so
Cool.
we're kind of in the middle of the stage. And Jennifer Huff, I know you want to talk to him for sure. So who has a question for Shannon? And, you know, ask him anything. And what I'm saying to you is this.
Not quite anything.
Just,
I'll
and he has a
okay.
gorgeous girlfriend, so he's already taken. But here's the piece. What, and she's a rock star.
She's
too.
a rock star.
I can't
She's awesome.
wait to have her with us.
Yeah, yeah.
So if you woke up this morning and there was something in your mind that seemed kind of impossible, and you had the opportunity to ask a question of the person who gets off and creates the impossible as the possible, what would you want to ask him? And I'll tell you, I'm going to start, because it's my party and I can.
Because that's what you want.
Because that's what I want. And as you know, I got married in 10 weeks.
Right,
You know,
I do know.
17
That's
years
awesome.
ago. So,
Yeah.
you know, I kind of go for what I want.
Right.
So, and then, so cool. So when I was starting with the water bearers, you know, I thought, okay, Jesse's my partner. Jesse, say hi, my love. Okay. And also my publisher. So he really loved what you said about books. But forgive me. So here's a piece. So he and I were hosting a mastermind group in January, and I said, you know, I invited the group to look at like what was that bold, audacious thing that you thought, like, man, if this could happen in my lifetime, I would leave the planet complete.
Yeah.
And for me, that was, I have a sense, Shannon, that there's enough water on the planet. There's no lack of water on the planet.
Sure.
Right? So I thought, how could I make sure that every person, like that whole idea of dehydration, people dying of not having water, that went away in my lifetime. And immediately somebody introduced me to Sprite Loriano. I was down in Ecuador working with the water bearers.
Yeah.
It started happening. What was interesting is that when we were in Ecuador, we were down in the jungle, we're in the rainforest, and they didn't drink water. And these people were healthy.
Yeah.
Like their bodies worked, everything was working. And so then I had to shift my perspective of my first priority being
Right.
how do we get everybody water,
Sure.
which I then moved to food.
Yeah.
You know, because why not?
Yeah.
That seems like the next one in the hierarchy of like, you know, education is fantastic, but without food and water,
Right.
it becomes a luxury.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So what would you suggest, or do you have any ideas around anything that you know to be true that, you know, a mere mortal like me that's kind of building my impact in the world in service, where would I want to focus next on hunger?
I'd ask you this question. Where do you want to focus?
It's a great,
And I ask it because of this. You're super intelligent, and I know you're plugged in. So there's a lot of ways that you could show up and serve. In even just that niche itself, there's a lot of different ways you could do it.
right.
But I'm willing to bet that if you kind of tuned in, there's probably, and this is not like end all be all, this is probably just for now,
Right.
but there's probably for now a way that you just really want to do it.
Yeah, and it's
Is that true?
Yeah, so true.
Seeing a trend, guys?
Yeah. And here's the thing, like I'm madly in love with Lynn Twist.
Uh-huh.
And I realized that I just sat up here and told you the whole story of how she started the Hunger Project in the 1970s and
Yeah.
how she's changed the world already and
Yeah.
how there's still work to do.
Yeah.
So it's actually like literally already 1 degree of separation from me, but I couldn't see it until
Right.
I asked the question.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So it's it's a text like,
Great.
thanks. So appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, okay,
Awesome.
thanks.
So what are you going to say?
So I'm going to say, Lynn, what's
feed
next?
some people.
What's next, and tell me how.
Yeah.
Right? And tell me where the need is, because
Great.
she's intimately. She's in Ghana.
She knows.
She's intimately familiar with what's needed
Right.
to complete that circle.
Totally.
Right. If we've gone from there to here, what's
Yeah.
needed to really just
And
close
you can
the gap.
help come in and fill the gap.
I could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could or can or will.
I will. I will. Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Good.
Love it.
I'm only 50. I've
Right,
got time.
right. Plenty of time. Awesome.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. All right. So, am I the only one who had a burning question? Okay. Lauren, do you want to get a mic, sweetie? My daughter. Gorgeous girl.
So I want to end human trafficking in my lifetime,
Okay.
and it feels really huge.
Yeah.
So, and I think the root cause is economic injustice. So I have an idea about a way to do it that feels impossible. I want to create an app that anyone could download at any moment in time, and it would become an Interpol that would go global anytime you're snatched.
Okay.
So, but that's just an idea I've had for like 5 years.
Sure.
So, but it's now.
Yeah.
So what do I do?
So just to give you some insight into how my brain works, in my opinion, especially when it comes to doing the impossible, the best and easiest way for me to think about it, and this is probably true for all of you guys, is like, hey, I have this really big idea.
That's how it feels. That's how it's like. It's between excitement and
And heaviness, right?
yeah, yeah.
So, simple question changes the entire game.
Okay.
What is my first step?
That's exactly what I was going to ask you. What is my first step?
Yeah.
And now he's asking me. Oh no, I'm supposed to have the answer.
Yeah.
Well, ironically, it's exactly what you said not to do. Is I want to write a book called The Art of the Audacious Ask.
Right.
Because, and there's one guy that I know.
Let me cut you off just for a second.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I feel like that's the first step, but that's
Sure.
just what's coming to me. Yeah. And I don't know if it's because
Totally.
I
And
don't know if
this-
it's because I'm in the old dream.
Yep.
Or if it's if I need to go to the new dream.
This is really important for you guys as well, because perspective is critical.
Yeah.
If I said there is a person standing on a podium in the Olympics with a gold medal around their neck, I want you to visualize that. Okay? Yes or no? Do they have a coach on the sidelines?
Yes.
Is it even a question?
No.
No. So that's interesting, because for some of us who, like, can we agree that changing the world is a bigger endeavor than winning a gold medal? Is that? I think so. And it's not to take, gold medal, you got to work hard, you got to be dedicated. I don't take anything away from those people. But changing the world, that's an endeavor, right? So I bring this up because perspective is critical. Sometimes if we want to take on the world, sometimes we think we have to figure it out ourselves. And within our own little perspective, there's kind of like a very straight and narrow way to do it, and it's hard and it's complicated. But with a little bit of perspective, someone can come over and say, hey, why don't you just do that thing right there? So my that thing right there for you would be, and this is something that I see a lot of, which is like, hey, this is what you said. Hey, I want to create this app, and the way that I'm going to do that is to write a book. Right? Do you guys get the kind of the irony in that?
Well, right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, the
But
better,
I know how to write a book. I don't know how to create an app.
okay, at the moment,
Right. Yeah.
right? At the moment.
Okay.
At the moment. Did I have any clue how to raise the GDP of New Zealand by raising the GDC? Trust me when I say I was sitting on my couch when he asked me that question. I was like, and of course I just tried to keep it together. Like, yeah, of course we can do. Like I was losing my shit. But I knew that I could.
Yeah.
Do you get it?
Yeah.
I knew that I could.
Yeah.
What we can do and what we can do right now and what we can do are two different things. But you can.
Yeah.
You can.
Okay.
And as Jim Rohn used to say, if you look at something and you say you can't, then you must. And how many of you know this is true? When something's an absolute must for you in life, you can.
Yeah.
You can. So for you, it's probably been like on the back burner a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so step one is make it an absolute must.
Yeah.
It's a must. Because when it's a must, like I don't know goes away. Because you access possibility thinking and creativity and
Right.
imagination where all the answers to how the fuck do you do the impossible come from.
Yeah.
And boom, you have solutions. And they might not even be your solutions. It's like, who do I talk to that knows how
Right.
to do this?
Yeah.
But without even asking that question, you can't get there. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So number one, it's a must for you. And then we go back to, now what's my first step?
Okay.
Fair enough?
Yeah.
Hey,
Thank you.
are you in like a community with these guys? Okay, cool. So how about this? Just to kind of like keep it in the community, why don't you create some actionable item? Once you get clarity on that, I'll give you to the end of the day to figure out what your first step is. And then do you have a Facebook group, I'm guessing, some kind of thing?
We do, and we actually, after this, are going to mastermind on what our next steps are.
Great.
So, yeah.
Done. There you go. So then you'll have support and accountability. Awesome. Oh, you know, just going to end trafficking. Like, let's clap it up just a little, you know.
Come on, yeah.
Seriously, guys.
Anastasia? Oh, share. Okay, sure.
Okay.
I am absolutely called and driven to change the way we deal with our children in this country. You know, a society where honor and value are bestowed on our children. And in my mind, that is creating an alternate to the system that we have in place today. And that feels very overwhelming to me, a system outside of the government.
Sure.
Any ideas?
Yeah. I just want to, like, I'm a huge stickler for language. So I just want to pick up on something that I noticed. You said how we deal with our children.
Okay.
We deal with problems. We don't deal with children.
But do you feel like that's how our country has been looking at our children?
Totally.
Right?
So,
Okay.
so my first suggestion as the leader of
Got
this
that.
thing, what's a better language that you could bring to
Right.
that? What do you want to do with the children rather than deal with them?
Support them.
Support them. Great. I love that.
Yeah,
I can get behind that.
Yeah.
I want to support some kids.
yeah.
So the question would be, in what way do you want to support them? Like, there's so many ways that you can support kids.
Yeah, I truly know. I'd like to create a facility where when the child is pulled out of the home, mom and child have an opportunity to go and be healed together.
Okay, so this is not like necessarily like a 2.0 Waldorf or like Montessori. This is like kind of like bridge to new experience of excellence in life.
Right, so it's moved from the crisis, what is offered,
Yep,
the facilities for crisis, to a way to learn how to live differently.
awesome. I
Yep.
love that. Cool.
Yep.
So the question is, so probably this has been in the back pocket for a little while.
Yeah, years.
Okay, how many kids have gotten served in that time frame?
None.
Okay,
I worked with a lot of women,
okay.
well,
Cool.
a few kids, but
Okay.
not greatly.
Here, guys, like, here's the thing. If you have the capacity to help people and you don't do it, you're just as responsible for keeping them stuck as whoever put them there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a hard pill to swallow, but you gotta face the fact of that's just true. So that's why today becomes like truly a day of decision of like, okay, this is real, and now this is a must for me.
Yeah, it
So-
absolutely is.
Great. So with that being said, then what would be the first step? What's the first step?
Gathering money.
Gathering money. Great. How many? Let's ask this question. The thing that you rose the money for,
Yep, Unstoppable Foundation.
is that for kids?
Yes.
Okay. So do you see a trend in people wanting to support kids?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think that there would be other people out there who would want to support your cause to help kids?
Yes.
Awesome.
Do I need a nonprofit?
I'm probably not the guy to ask about the details. I'm the big picture guy.
Yeah.
But within this community that you're in, does somebody know the answer to that?
Yes.
Yeah, totally. So you have the answers all around you. So those detail questions, just ask the right people, but then be willing to take action on whatever they say.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Fair enough?
Good job, Sherry.
Done. And trafficking, help kids, not bad.
You opened the box.
What else we got?
All right, we got a few more. And I'd say we have about 10 minutes.
Great.
If that's good with you.
Sure.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, hi Anastasia.
I'm Anastasia. My big vision is to change the paradigm of healthcare, because over the last so many years, I retired as a physicist 4 years ago, and I started healing people in an energy way and have transformed hundreds of lives doing it. And I thought, what's the way I can have the biggest impact? And by hearing you, it's like the same thing that's happening right now, is that I'm working with CEOs and leaders. And as I transform them, I can see their organizations and them changing. And, you know, I've been chasing that thing, like I have books out, I have programs out, and all of that. And you're just saying that like, duh. And so for me now is like, what's my next step to really make that, for me, the bigger picture rather than
Sure.
chasing all those programs.
Totally. Here's the simple answer, scrap them. Scrap them. Like compared to like, simple like science. I'm a dreamer, but at the end of the day, I'm a scientist. Okay, so let's measure the impact that you've been able to make with intimacy against the impact you've been able to make with leverage and automation. Which one wins?
The intimacy by far.
Totally. So the focus goes where the results grow.
Yeah, I just had this amazing conversation with a CEO of a company this morning, and I didn't want to get off the phone. It was so amazing.
So
Yeah.
check this out. What if you scrapped all the other stuff? First of all, how freeing would that feel? Pretty awesome. And then you took all that extra time and energy and effort and maybe money and you put that into, how can I take what I'm doing with these people to the next level? You see, here's the challenge, guys. It's like sometimes we think of scale as this. I want to serve, I want to make a bigger impact, and it's quantity, not quality, right? So in my world, it's like, wait, even if I have only one client, my question is like, how can I go even deeper with you? How can I expand myself so that when I show up for you, we can go to somewhere we've never been before? Right? I'd rather go 1,000,000 inches deep with one person than an inch deep with 1,000,000 people. Make sense? So scrap everything else. Congratulations, that's all done.
That feels way better.
Feels lighter, doesn't it?
It wasn't just the white shirt.
Yeah.
You came for lightness today.
And put all that time and energy and effort into how can I serve the frickin' heck out of these people deeper? Because that's probably more like just what you want anyway, right? There's the trend.
And you do
again.
that already, Anastasia, right? Like that's the piece when you said, when we were together in Palm Springs, you're like, oh my gosh, you actually see me.
Yeah,
It's who
because
you
that came
are,
out of
right?
that came out of Laura, and this is the thing that's been just sort of percolating for the last 3 years. I just said I need to serve leaders because that's going to be,
Right.
for me, the biggest effect.
Totally.
Perfect.
That's the decision that I made. That's the decision that I made. Because I said to myself, if I work with the people who really have the guts to do the impossible, what a difference they're going to make. Look at what happened in India. That happened just last year. I only created the program in 2014.
It doesn't take long.
Doesn't take long as you're focused on the right stuff, the stuff that actually moves the needle forward, right? So you do that, I guarantee we'll have a conversation later down the road, and you'll be telling me about all the world-changing stuff you're doing.
Perfect. All right,
Excellent.
good job.
Give her a
Thank you
hand.
so much.
All right, so we've got just a couple minutes. So Katerina and then Jennifer, did you want to talk to Shannon, or did you have? Well, no, but I'm saying you guys might take it offline because you're in the business already of saving the world, and there's some great things going on. But just because we're going to break at 12 for a break, and I want to honor the time because today is our last day. We have some stuff that's really important to complete. I don't want you walking out of here with a bunch of open loops.
So let me
Right?
say this too,
Yeah.
just to maybe like save any like, oh my God feeling. This conversation doesn't stop here. Like I'm giving you guys me right now, and there's this little thing called Facebook that I tend to like a lot, and I know it's kind of like an addiction, but I just like it.
And he's in our Facebook group,
Yeah.
so you guys can find
Yeah.
him. You guys
So-
are already connected in the Facebook group.
So you might not have a question right now, but if you do tomorrow, ask it. If you do next week, ask it. I'm just available. So don't let's time sensitive. It doesn't matter. I'm not going anywhere.
Thank you, sweetheart.
Hi, Shannon.
Hi.
Thank you for the gift of you.
Thank you.
What does your shirt say, and say a little bit about it?
Who can read it? Don't quit your daydream.
Awesome.
This is a T-shirt line that I designed this year called Exit. And the idea is to exit the norm. And the whole idea is to take cultural paradigms and break them. How many of you have ever been told, don't quit your day job?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, nah, fuck yeah. How about don't quit your daydream? And then I thought about all the people who had not quit their daydream, like Walt Disney and Oprah and all that stuff, and like, wow, aren't we so grateful that they didn't? So that's what that's about.
Did you have a question for him other than the T-shirt?
I do not, unless you think there's a question I need to ask.
Not at all. Not at all.
That's
Not at all.
enough. That's
Yeah, it's really good. It's really, really good. And, I want to just bring forward this one point of we tend to put people on pedestals, right? Jennifer was the first person I ever heard say that. Don't pedestalize somebody, right? And this is a place where we keep ourselves small and we're like, oh, well, that person won't want to hear from me or whatever. Like, I heard this guy speak and I was just like, I'm just going to reach out to him. And I said to EJ, I'm like, hey, do you know this guy? And I'm like, never mind, I've already done it. Like, while I'm waiting to, wait for the right opportunity, I'm usually just doing it.
Yeah.
Because then what do you have to lose?
Right.
And what I find is that the more successful a person is, the more freedom they actually have, and the more generous they actually are and excited to share their gifts and who they are and what they're here to bring. And I love the context. Just really, I want to wrap it up with this piece that what I heard that blew my mind, when which is really what you started with, kind of the loop of what is it and how can we support people in actually knowing that they are the gift, right? Because this is an audience of people who really are the gift, and there's so much time spent looking for automation and getting out their gifts in the world versus being who they are. And it's not, and we have some people in our audience who, like let me just point at you. Some people in our audience that actually, they don't want to do the one-on-one stuff.
Right.
They would prefer not to.
Sure.
And they know it about themselves.
That's
and so, I want them to be able to bring it.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And I'll maybe just say this, which is when I said, okay, it's going to be 150K, instantly I was like, ooh, I better learn some more shit, or I better get more stuff, right? Because one of my biggest challenges was I'm not enough. How many of you kind of know that feeling? I think probably everyone in this room has experienced it at some point or another. So for me, it was just about a total ownership of I am enough. I don't need more. I don't need to go to the next seminar and learn the next thing. Maybe it could be helpful, but as I am right now, I'm enough. And if that's true for me, then it's true for every single person in here. So if it's a new echelon of price point that you want to charge, or a new program that you want to develop that maybe no one else is doing that's different, but you really want to do it, or whatever, and you're thinking to yourself, but to charge at that level, I'd really have to like bring the value. Like, you're just enough. That's all there is to it. Fair enough?
Fair enough. All right, Jen.
Okay. So I was thinking, do I have a question? I actually don't have a question. It's like, I see you, I get you, hello. And thank you,
Thank you.
really, truly, for being you. It's just so great. So I just wanted to bridge a few things that I think would serve.
Okay.
One of the things that I wanted to bridge is, so each of us has 75 trillion cells. We emanate photon packages of light that contain the information of who we are out to the world, and our cells actually receive those pieces of information. When someone shows up in the room, be it Laura, be it me, be it you, whomever, that actually contains the ability to dance with not knowing, such that we can live in the space between what's actually happening, that space contains all the possibility. One of our mantras at our company is everything is there's always a way. There is always a way. So that leaves the world wide open. So now you guys, we all, are in the presence of someone who lives in the space of there's always a way, but we don't know what it is, but there's always a way. If you can, instead of, because what I was watching in the room, because what I do is I actually assist leaders at a certain level to be able to marry with their ability to change the energy of anything and actually to find their way in the space where they don't know. So it's very similar. So when I was watching the room, what I was watching is more than 50% of you started to give your power away to Shannon.
Give me the power.
Right. And he's just not about that, nor am I. And the issue is when you go there, you instantly took all of those 75 trillion cells that have the capacity to find your way, and you said, I am not in my body reading my capacity to go between the lines. I'm now giving my power away to him. His spirit is not living through your body. If his spirit was living through your body, then he'd be able to show you your way. What he's doing is he's actually catalyzing and he's emanating those photons that are actually, if I can draw this for you, because you would miss the ultimate, but you get the booby prize of having Shannon in the room. And I want to make sure that in the room you don't get the booby prize. And Laura and whomever else, all of us, really, because we're all giving off those photons. So the point is this. We're giving off these amazing photon packages of light, and they contain the information that's not about Shannon or about Laura or about each other. The information is about doorways or pathways that didn't exist before, that because you're emanating those photon packages of light, the entire room now has the capacity to upgrade your multidimensional physiology so that you can capacitate the same ability. So let me say that again.
Say it in English for those
Say
of
it
us
in
that are not
English.
scientists.
So
Even
in
I'm like,
multidimensional science, what's happening is the information and codes to be able to live in that land of possibility are actually coming out of him. They also come out of me, they come out of Laura, they come out of quite a few people in this room. And then when that information is emanating from you, our bodies are designed such that we can constantly upgrade, we can constantly grow, we can constantly create upon creation something that never existed before, and it's our most joyful space.
And when you say our bodies, what I want to really drive home for this is that all of our bodies.
All.
It's not Jennifer's body does this, Laura's body does this.
It's not for
Shannon's
special
body does
people.
this. Every person in this room has this capacity. And what I'm hearing, Jen, and then we're going to wrap it up because
Yeah.
we really need to take a break here.
Sure.
Is that, you know, what happens when you give that away, it's not, he's not asking for it, he's not looking for it, and it doesn't help him at all. And it certainly doesn't help you, right? So stay where you are and recognize your own magnificence and brilliance and capacity. You are a child of God. God wants you to have anything and everything that is here for you, right?
Receive at that level, and
Yes.
if you, and the point being that bring your consciousness back behind your eyes, be in your body, and allow yourself the gift of being upgraded by what is happening in the room, and don't ever give your power away to someone you perceive as your guru again. What we're all doing is collaborating with one another.
Beautiful.
As equals in our own unique genius. There are no gurus in the room.
Beautiful.
And friggin' thank you, Shannon. That was, just thank you for having the courage to go on the journey of being you, because you've just facilitated a room full of people in their journey of being them just by being you so powerfully. It's just, can't even say enough. Thank you.
So
It's
great.
so great to meet you.
Yes. So, my dear,
so,
we're going to take about a 10-minute break right now. I know that you have a client that you're meeting today in Santa Barbara.
I do have to get back. I'm not in a super hurry to dash off.
Perfect.
So
Okay,
I'll be
great. So
around
if you're
for
not in a
little bit.
super hurry, that's great, because I know more people in the room would love to speak with you.
Yeah.
And for the flow of us that are here to Mastermind next, we're going to take a 10-minute break. If you have not turned in your applications to Anya, she is right there by the back door. Please turn them in now so that we can schedule a conversation, you and I, this week. All right? This is what it is. We're here right now. This is the time for us to have a conversation. We're not processing your credit card. This is not what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to complete what we started so that we can move on to the next place, because you have action steps that have actually been activated, and you're like percolating right now, which is why I was so excited when I heard Shannon speak the first time. I knew that just in the essence of being in his space, we are being expanded, which is a beautiful gift for us. He took us to church on Sunday morning. We're so grateful. And, and there's more, and there's more. So please get your applications turned into Anya. Let's get them complete. It is 12:06. Be back in the room at 12:16.